The forest canopy is never truly still, even on a windless afternoon. Sunlight drips through layers of leaves in slow-moving beams, and among those drifting columns of amber light hangs a structure so delicate it seems woven from the air itself. The golden silk orb-weaver stretches her web across a clearing where insects travel in great invisible currents. To an untrained eye, the shimmering threads appear fragile, almost ornamental, but every single strand has been engineered over millions of years to perform one task with ruthless efficiency: stop flight in an instant. Her web glows with a faint honey-colored sheen because the silk itself refracts light in a way that blends into the warm spectrum of the understory. Many insects simply do not perceive the golden shimmer as a threat. Some species may even be slightly attracted to it, mistaking it for the sunlit gaps they instinctively navigate toward. The orb-weaver positions herself at the center of the wheel-like structure, resting lightly on the radial lines, the silk highways that remain dry and non-sticky. From there she monitors tension, vibration, and air pressure through the delicate hairs on her legs, each one innervated with sensory organs tuned to interpret the lightest tremor. In this quiet moment, the web looks like a still photograph of geometry suspended in space, but its architectural complexity is anything but static. The sticky spirals that sweep outward from the hub in near-perfect symmetry are coated with thousands of microscopic droplets. Each droplet is not simply glue. It is a composite substance capable of stretching, contracting, and redistributing force. These droplets act like shock absorbers, each one responding to collisions with a controlled yield that prevents the entire web from tearing under sudden stress. This engineering allows the orb-weaver to create a trap that is both delicate and brutally strong. Far beyond the web's radius, a moth begins its flight path. The insect flutters with a slow, drifting pattern, guided by faint odors and shifting gradients of humidity. Its scales, which cover the wings like powdered ceramic shingles, give it a diffuse, velvety appearance and help it evade predators by absorbing sound and scattering light. But scales offer no protection against something that stops movement before a defensive response can even begin. The moth flies forward, unaware that it is moments away from encountering one of nature's most perfected interception devices. When the moth strikes the silk, the impact is instantaneous and absolute. The sticky spirals seize the wings in less than the blink of an eye. The droplets elongate as they absorb kinetic energy, stretching into fine filaments before snapping back with elastic force. The moth's body jerks, momentum extinguished. The forest remains silent, but the web vibrates with a distinct signature, a rapid oscillation that the orb-weaver interprets through her legs as clearly as if she had seen the collision herself. Before the moth can even struggle, the spider moves. Orb-weavers do not stalk or hesitate. They accelerate with a burst of controlled speed, using the dry radial threads as a perfectly designed network of footpaths. These non-sticky lines allow the spider to run without becoming entangled, while the victim remains locked in a maze of glue-covered spirals. She reaches the impact site in what feels like a single liquid motion, guided not by sight alone but by a map of vibrations traveling through the web's architecture. Upon arrival, she does not bite immediately. The orb-weaver's true weapon is restraint, swift, total, and perfectly timed. She begins to circle the moth in tight loops, spinning silk at a speed that would blur to the human eye. Her back legs guide the silk spool, wrapping the prey in layer after layer of binding thread. But this is not simply wrapping, it is joint targeting. She binds the legs first, then the wings, then the thorax, each pass gluing the moth's most vital points of movement. Orb-weaver silk in these moments is not the decorative spiral of the web. It is a specialized restraint fiber, dry and tough, designed for immobilization. As she binds the moth, the spider constantly manipulates the victim's body, keeping it bouncing slightly against the web. These rhythmic movements are not random. Insects, like moths and beetles, can sometimes escape sticky webs by vibrating hard enough to break free or by using specially structured claws to pull themselves loose. By maintaining an unpredictable oscillation, The orb-weaver disrupts the moth's reflexive attempts to generate coordinated force. Every time the moth tries to flap or kick, the spider's induced movement redirects that energy into useless motion, preventing the insect from establishing leverage. The mechanics of this struggle reveal an evolutionary arms race. Moths have developed wing scales that help them slip through a variety of sticky surfaces, but the orb-weaver has countered by producing glue droplets that remain adhesive even when contaminated by those scales. The balance between evolutionary strategies is not symmetrical. The spider only needs to win once, while the prey must succeed every single time. Nature favors redundancy, where survival hinges on consistency. After several seconds, the moth is a bundled mass of wings and legs, still alive but incapable of meaningful movement. Only now does the spider shift to the final act. She positions her body over the thorax, palpating the surface with the tips of her chelicerae. Spiders do not randomly inject venom, they target specific nerve clusters that allow for rapid and controlled incapacitation. The venom of the golden silk orb-weaver contains neurotoxins that block synaptic transmission, leading to paralysis while preserving tissue integrity. This is important for a predator that digests its meals externally. The fresher the tissue, the more efficiently the spider can feed. With a precise downward motion, she delivers the bite. The fangs penetrate the exoskeleton with surgical exactness, delivering venom directly into the neural conduits. The effect is silent but decisive. The moth's internal signaling shuts down as though someone had flipped a switch. There is no dramatic thrashing, no final surge of panic. The fight was already over the moment the moth touched the web. Everything since then has simply been procedure, finely tuned, predictable, and perfected by countless generations. The spider withdraws slightly, sensing the paralysis take hold. She adjusts the bindings one final time before carrying the wrapped moth toward the hub of the web. Here she will store it, suspended in the geometric center of her domain. Over the next hours, she will return to feed, breaking down the moth's tissues into a nutrient-rich liquid. For now, the web returns to its earlier stillness, gleaming in the golden light, ready to perform its silent interception again. In the forest, death often seems dramatic, a chase or a clash of claws and wings. But in the world of the golden silk orb-weaver, death arrives in fractions of a heartbeat, hidden within the quiet tension of a web stretched between branches. The kill is not the venom. It is the arrest, the seizure of motion so complete that escape becomes a mathematical impossibility. One impact, one vibration, one predator perfectly tuned to the language of trembling silk. Morning spreads across the meadow in slow, diffused waves, turning every blade of grass into a slender pillar of light. The air is cool enough that dew clings to the vegetation in perfectly rounded droplets, each one refracting miniature versions of the rising sun. This is a landscape designed for jumping insects. Crickets, grasshoppers, and leafhoppers weave through the stems in explosive arcs, each leap driven by coiled muscles in their hind legs that store elastic energy like living springs. Within this restless vertical jungle, mistakes are usually forgiven by the laws of speed and distance. But not here, not near the crosshair. Suspended between two tall grass stems is a web that appears, at first glance, to be the most conspicuous structure in the meadow. Where most spiders rely on invisibility, the wasp spider does something counterintuitive. She builds a bold white zigzag running through the center of her orb web, a structure known as the stabilimentum. Its purpose is still debated among scientists. Some argue that its brightness deters larger animals from blundering through and destroying the web. Others believe it reflects ultraviolet wavelengths, acting like a lure for insects that associate ultraviolet light with flowers. Regardless of its origin, the stabilimentum is unmistakable. It slices through the web like a vertical scar of brilliance, glistening against the background of green. At its center sits the wasp spider herself, a striking insect whose abdomen carries alternating bands of yellow, black, and white. Her patterning, like that of a true wasp, advertises danger, a classic case of Batesian mimicry, where harmless organisms borrow the warning signals of more threatening species. The mimicry does more than discourage predators. It blends perfectly with the stabilimentum. She aligns her body along the zigzag, her legs extended in pairs so the markings of her abdomen fuse seamlessly with the structure beneath her. The result is a predator hiding in plain sight, its body disguised as simply another part of the pattern. Around her, the meadow is alive with motion. Grasshoppers land briefly before vaulting away, their legs acting like biological catapults. Crickets crawl methodically through the foliage, listening for mates, predators, or the shift of wind that might betray an approaching bird. These insects navigate through a world where light changes quickly, shadows fracture unpredictably, and obstacles appear without warning. Most are accustomed to sudden obstacles: a thick stem, a cluster of leaves, a spider web stretched horizontally across a narrow path. Yet few expect a vertical web suspended at eye level, nor do they expect the intricate crosshair at its center, a structure both visible and strangely inviting. A cricket, slightly larger than average, and flushed from an early hunt for food, springs from one blade of grass toward another. Its jump is powerful, launching it several body lengths into the air with a trajectory set by the angle of its legs. The landing, however, is less controlled. The cricket sails forward, anticipating a clear stretch of stems. Instead, it collides with the near-invisible spokes of the wasp spider's orb. The impact is sudden, quiet, and absolute. The silk strands yield but do not break, absorbing the force before snapping back to restrain the cricket's wings and legs. For an instant, the insect thrashes, attempting to sever the threads with its mandibles. Grasshoppers and crickets possess strong mouthparts, capable of chewing through thick vegetation. A single spider strand is not impenetrable, but the web is not a single strand. It is a three-dimensional grid, where each component distributes stress across the entire structure. The cricket's initial efforts only deepen its entanglement, pulling more silk into its limbs. The stabilimentum vibrates, its zigzag pattern shimmering as tension ripples through the web. These vibrations travel inward like concentric rings on a pond. The wasp spider feels them immediately through mechanoreceptors located along her legs. Minute sensory organs tune to the tiniest frequency changes. She does not react to every vibration. Wind, dust, and even stray pollen grains create noise. But the signature of trapped prey is unmistakable. A rapid, irregular series of pulses that convey the weight and struggle of a live body. She moves with calculated precision. Unlike the golden silk orb-weaver that races across dry spokes, the wasp spider relies on slow but exact placement of her legs. She advances along the stabilimentum, each step taken on non-sticky structural threads. These radial lines act like the frame of a wheel, capable of holding her weight while she maneuvers through the delicate maze she constructed. Her posture remains aligned with the stabilimentum, maintaining the illusion of a harmless shape until the very last moment. When she reaches the struggling cricket, the ambush begins. The wasp spider anchors herself briefly before lunging forward with startling speed, spinning her abdomen as she releases coils of thick, dry silk. This silk is not the spiral glue of the web. It is a specialized restraint fiber meant for rapid immobilization. She loops the first strands around the cricket's thorax, then its legs, binding them tightly before the insect can muster a coordinated attempt to break free. The cricket's hind legs, normally its strongest asset, twitch helplessly as silk layers accumulate around them. The spider works with an economy of movement. Her silk emerges continuously from spigots on her abdomen, guided by her back legs in rapid arcs. This spinning is not random wrapping, it is controlled targeting of joints and leverage points. She circles the cricket multiple times, leaving a white cocoon that thickens with every pass. The cricket's attempts to chew through the silk become increasingly futile. Even if its mandibles can cut through a single strand, the surrounding layers hold firm, and the spider places more silk at the exact moment the insect tries to exploit a weakness. Grasshoppers and crickets rely on quick, explosive jumps for survival, but their physiology offers little defense once they are restrained. Their legs contain massive bundles of elastic proteins designed to store and release energy in predictable bursts. Without the ability to anchor their feet against a solid surface, they cannot deploy that force effectively. The web neutralizes this advantage instantly. The cricket's muscular power becomes irrelevant as it hangs suspended, unable to create leverage or distance. As the prey's movements weaken, the spider shifts her tactics. She adjusts the bindings one final time, ensuring no limb remains mobile. She then positions herself near the thorax. The wasp spider's venom delivery is highly refined. She pierces the exoskeleton with her fangs, depositing neurotoxins that shut down the cricket's nervous system. The venom does not kill immediately. Instead, it halts movement and prevents damage to the tissues she will later digest. This controlled paralysis ensures the spider's meal remains chemically fresh. Once the venom has taken effect, she withdraws. The bundled cricket dangles beneath the stabilimentum, just below the crosshair that betrayed its presence. The spider returns to her position along the zigzag, aligning her body once more with the bright, geometric signature of her trap. From this vantage point, she becomes a living part of the structure, waiting for the next insect to miscalculate a jump. The stabilimentum, often misunderstood as an anomaly or decorative flourish, serves its ultimate purpose once again. It is a declaration of presence, a lure, and a warning all at once. A paradoxical signal that invites insects closer even as it hides the predator poised to strike. In the world of the wasp spider, the moment an insect touches that crosshair is the moment its fate is sealed. The trap does not just capture, it sentences. The mid-afternoon heat settles across the undergrowth like a warm blanket, saturating the forest floor with the heavy scent of sap and leaf litter. Light trickles through the canopy in broken fragments, illuminating patches of soil where caterpillars feed in slow, deliberate arcs. Their bodies move with rhythmic softness, each segment lifting and lowering as though the creature were a living wave rolling across vegetation. To the untrained eye, a caterpillar appears defenseless, a delicate larval stage built for eating and growing, not for confrontation. Yet its world is shaped by predators that have evolved to exploit exactly this vulnerability. Predators equipped with weapons that redefine precision. Hovering above the foliage is a solitary wasp, slender and aerodynamic, her wings flickering with a faint metallic shimmer. She is not hunting for nectar, she is hunting for motion. Her compound eyes scan the terrain below, processing visual information at speeds that would overwhelm most vertebrates. She interprets the slightest twitch of a leaf, the faint ripple of displaced air, and the flash of colors beneath her, all through sensory systems honed by millions of years of predation. Unlike communal wasps that scavenge in frenzied groups, solitary hunting wasps operate with surgical discipline. Each kill is intentional, each strike executed with anatomical precision. Their abdomen houses a stinger, a modified ovipositor, capable of piercing exoskeletons and delivering venom that affects the nervous system with frightening efficiency. This stinger is not merely a defensive tool, it is a biological hypodermic needle designed for offensive use, injecting chemical cocktails engineered to disable, manipulate, or preserve prey. The wasp circles once more before descending. Below her, a plump caterpillar rests on the underside of a leaf, consuming a trail of plant tissue with steady grinding motions. It remains unaware of the danger above, relying on camouflage and immobility as primary defenses. But camouflage means nothing to a predator that hunts by vibration and shape recognition. And immobility becomes a liability in a world where hesitation is fatal. With a sudden drop, the wasp plunges from the air and seizes the caterpillar behind the head. The impact is silent but violent, her legs gripping the prey with force, magnified by hooked claws at their tips. In this moment, the caterpillar begins to thrash, bending its flexible body in desperate attempts to shake off the attacker. But the wasp is prepared. Her abdomen curls downward in one fluid motion, aligning the stinger with the caterpillar's underside. The sting that follows is not a single clean thrust. It is a rapid, repeated injection, each puncture delivering venom to a slightly different location. The movement resembles a sewing machine needle, precise, rhythmic, and terrifyingly fast. Every strike introduces biochemical agents that target neuronal communication, blocking the signals required for muscle contraction. The caterpillar stiffens as the venom interferes with the function of motor neurons, disrupting calcium channels and freezing its body in a state of helpless rigidity. Some wasps produce venom designed solely for paralysis, a permanent shutdown of movement that keeps prey fresh while preventing escape. Others wield venoms that alter behavior instead of immobilizing the victim. Parasitoid wasps, for example, inject compounds that suppress defensive reflexes, turning prey into docile hosts for their larvae. In these cases, the venom interferes with specific neural circuits responsible for escape responses. The prey remains alive, capable of experiencing the world, but stripped of autonomy. This manipulation is not cruelty by human standards. It is evolution's solution to providing offspring with immediate access to uncontaminated living tissue. The wasp now adjusts her grip, ensuring the caterpillar cannot writhe enough to dislodge her. She might inject additional venom if needed, guided by subtle cues in the prey's remaining muscle activity. Some species even probe their stinger into precise ganglia, using the tip to feel internal resistance and locate nerve centers with remarkable accuracy. This technique allows them to deliver paralysis not randomly, but with meticulous targeting. Once they strike the correct cluster, the prey's entire defensive repertoire collapses. For a predator of this size, energy efficiency is essential. A miscalculated sting wastes venom, time, and risk. Venom is metabolically expensive to produce, and solitary wasps often carry only enough for a few hunts. Therefore, their attacks are deliberate and calculated. Each sting serves a specific functional purpose: immobilize, sedate, or alter behavior depending on the species. The result is a biological algorithm of violence, efficient, elegant, and executed without hesitation. With the caterpillar now immobilized, the wasp releases her grip and circles the prey, assessing the extent of paralysis. The caterpillar remains alive but unresponsive, its muscular waves halted mid-motion. Its spiracles continue to open and close slowly, drawing in air, but its body no longer obeys any motor commands. The wasp approaches again and drags the limp form across the leaf surface. She must transport the prey to a nest, often a small burrow, a crevice, or a cavity concealed under debris. Dragging prey several times heavier than herself would seem impossible, yet the wasp accomplishes it using a combination of strength, leverage, and anchoring. Her legs lock around the caterpillar's body, and she pushes off the substrate using rapid wing flicks to reduce friction. Once airborne, she may lift the prey for short bursts, adjusting her grip repeatedly as she travels. The path back to the nest is not random. It often follows scent cues, visual landmarks, or polarized light patterns in the sky that guide her orientation. Inside her nest, the wasp positions the paralyzed caterpillar carefully, usually in a chamber where temperature and humidity favor larval development. She then lays an egg on or near the prey's body. The egg adheres to the soft tissue using a glue-like secretion, ensuring it does not fall away. Over time, the egg will hatch into a larva equipped with mandibles designed for consuming fresh tissue. Because the caterpillar is alive but paralyzed, its internal organs remain preserved, offering the larva a nutrient-rich environment free from decay. The larval feeding process unfolds slowly. The young wasp avoids vital organs until the final stages of consumption, keeping the host alive for as long as possible. This strategy ensures the prey does not rot, providing the larva with optimal nutrition. Eventually, when the caterpillar's body has been reduced to a shell of its former self, the larva constructs a cocoon inside the chamber, completing its development in the safety of the underground nest. For other wasp species, the kill is immediate. Predatory wasps that hunt spiders or larger insects often inject venom that disrupts muscle function instantly, causing the prey to collapse in moments. These wasps may consume the prey themselves or bring it back in pieces to feed their colony. But regardless of the species, one principle remains constant. Once the sting lands, the outcome is predetermined. Nature does not offer rematches in encounters where precision, evolution, and chemistry converge. The wasp's stinger is a masterpiece of biological engineering, externally simple, internally complex. It is composed of interlocking barbed lancets that slide against each other, driving the needle deeper into the prey with each oscillation. muscular contractions at the base of the stinger pump venom through a narrow canal, allowing the wasp to regulate dosage based on resistance or struggle. This combination of mechanical and chemical power grants wasps a level of predatory efficiency unmatched by many insects. As the sun lowers and shadows lengthen across the forest floor, the wasp finishes sealing her nest. The soil appears undisturbed, hiding the silent transformation occurring beneath. The caterpillar, once a vibrant feeding organism, now exists only as a vessel for the next generation. Above ground, the wasp rises once more into the air, scanning for movement, ready to repeat the cycle with unwavering precision. A single sting ends the story for the caterpillar. But for the wasp, it marks the beginning of another life. In this world of predators and prey, the difference between survival and oblivion is measured not in minutes or moments, but in the width of a needle and the speed of a strike. Night settles over the tropical forest like a heavy curtain, muffling the daytime noise and replacing it with a deeper, more resonant hum. Cicadas pulse in rhythmic waves, and the canopy creaks as warm air rises from the forest floor. In this dim world, illuminated only by the faint glow of moonlight cutting through gaps in the foliage, the trees become arenas. Sap wells ooze from damaged bark, spreading a sweet scent that travels far beyond the trunk. This scent draws insects from across the forest, each one guided by chemical signatures that signal food, territory, or opportunity. Among the largest arrivals are two male rhinoceros beetles, each one possessing a body that looks carved from ebony armor and crowned with a horn curved like a miniature battering ram. To the human eye, the rhinoceros beetle may appear cumbersome, even slow, its heavy exoskeleton gleaming like polished stone. But this impression dissolves the moment two males occupy the same feeding site. Beneath the rigid exterior lies a biological powerhouse built for grappling, lifting, and overpowering rivals with raw mechanical force. The beetle's horns are not weapons for tearing or cutting. They are levers, engineered for torque, stability, and redirection of mass. Every contour, ridge, and curvature serves a functional purpose within the physics of beetle combat. The first beetle reaches the sap well and lowers his head, placing the horn flush with the bark as he feeds. Sugars flow into his system, fueling the metabolic demands of a body designed to push and lift many times its weight. But the moment he settles in, the tremor of approaching footsteps resonates through the bark. Vibrations travel rapidly through the tree trunk, and the beetle senses them through mechanoreceptors in his legs, tiny sensory hairs that detect rhythmic tremors in the wood. He lifts his head, preparing for confrontation. From the shadows of a neighboring branch, the second male arrives. His horn is longer, with a sweeping upward curve that could offer superior leverage in certain positions. Rhinoceros beetle horns vary significantly among individuals, shaped by both genetics and developmental conditions. These structural differences lead to variations in fighting style. Some beetles favor lifting from below, while others specialize in hooking or pushing at angles that destabilize their opponents. Despite these variations, their objective remains constant: secure the sap and gain access to any nearby females. Conflict begins not with a charge, but with a slow, deliberate approach. The beetles size each other up, their antennae flicking through the air to capture chemical cues. This moment of assessment is crucial. A wrong angle or poorly timed push can give the opponent an opportunity to wedge his horn beneath the thorax, the most vulnerable position in beetle combat. Once a horn achieves that placement, the contest is essentially decided. The two males lock limbs, pressing their legs against the bark to establish traction. Their claws grip the textured surface, anchoring them for the impending struggle. They push forward, horns clacking as chitin meets chitin with a deep, resonant thud. The sound echoes through the trunk, a vibration felt more than heard. With each shove, they attempt to slide their horns beneath the opponent's center of mass, searching for the leverage point that can transform force into upward momentum. Rhinoceros beetles are among the strongest animals on the planet, relative to their size. Some species can lift more than dozens of times their body weight, a feat made possible by their reinforced exoskeleton, enlarged flight muscles, and the biomechanical advantage granted by their horn structure. Their power does not come from raw muscle strength alone, but from the interplay between muscle fibers, exoskeletal architecture, and mechanical leverage. This synergy allows them to generate staggering force during combat, despite their slow, deliberate walking pace. The two rivals continue to grapple, their horns sliding against each other as they test different angles of attack. One beetle attempts a lateral hook, twisting his horn sideways to unbalance the opponent. The move nearly succeeds, but the other responds by lifting upward, leveraging the curve of his horn to block the twist. Their legs strain against the bark, each step calculated to maintain stability. They pivot like miniature wrestlers, bodies pressed tight and horns locked in a contest that is as much about endurance as technique. Suddenly, the larger beetle makes a crucial mistake. For a brief moment, his front legs slip on a patch of slick sap. He adjusts, but the movement lifts his thorax by a fraction, just enough for his rival to exploit. The smaller beetle lunges forward with precision, driving the tip of his horn beneath the gap created at the underside of the rival's thorax. This is the fulcrum point, the place where mass can be redirected upward with maximum efficiency. The smaller beetle tightens his grip, pushing his horn deeper into position. Muscles contract with tremendous force, channeling energy from the thorax into the base of the horn. In one sudden, explosive motion, he lifts. The rival beetle's massive body rises from the bark, front legs flailing as he attempts to regain footing. But momentum has already shifted. Gravity works against him as the lifting beetle angles his horn upward, transferring force through a controlled arc. With a final heave, the victor flips the rival over the edge of the branch. The defeated beetle tumbles downward, unable to control the fall. Tree trunks provide no cushion. He hits lower branches and rebounds before landing on a patch of leaf litter far below. The impact does not injure him severely. Rhinoceros beetles are built to withstand falls, but defeat is absolute. By the time he recovers and attempts to climb back toward the feeding site, the victor has already reclaimed the sap and secured his dominance. This ring-out victory is not mere chance. It is the evolutionary solution to a problem encountered by countless species: how to settle disputes without lethal escalation. Rhinoceros beetles do not use claws, poison, or mandibles to harm each other. Their battles are fought through contests of strength, stability, and physics. The loser is rarely injured. He is simply removed from the arena. This strategy ensures that males compete intensely while avoiding the costly consequences of serious wounds. Such restraint preserves population stability and gives unsuccessful males future opportunities to breed. As the victorious beetle feeds once more on the sap, his horn glistens with moisture. The sugars replenish the energy spent during the fight. Nearby, the scent of fermenting sap may attract female beetles, which choose mates based partly on territory control and combat success. The horn, therefore, functions both as a weapon and a display structure, a visible indicator of strength, immunity, and developmental stability. Males with larger, well-formed horns are often more successful in securing access to resources and mates. Evolution has shaped these structures not simply for fighting, but as symbols of genetic fitness. The forest remains quiet, except for the steady chorus of nocturnal insects. The defeated beetle, now wandering in the leaf litter, resumes climbing, driven by instincts older than the trees themselves. He may find another sap well, or he may challenge another male, repeating the cycle in a different arena. In the world of rhinoceros beetles, the outcome of each battle does not determine survival, only opportunity. But in every contest, one rule remains universal. One clean throw means total defeat. Through these nighttime struggles, the forest maintains a balance of competition and restraint. The beetle's immense strength, rather than causing destruction, becomes a tool for ordered conflict, a testament to evolution's ability to harness raw power for structured, ritualized behavior. Their battles are monumental in scale relative to their size, yet they unfold with a logic and purpose that keeps the ecosystem functioning without unnecessary loss. On the tree trunk above, the victorious male stands guard over the sap, his horn catching the faint shimmer of moonlight. For now, he reigns uncontested. And in the stillness of the tropical night, strength, expressed not through violence, but through precision and leverage, decides everything. Dusk pulls its cool breath through the woodland, dimming the sunlit canopy into a mosaic of shadow and amber. Oak trees rise like pillars, their bark fissured into deep grooves that catch the last fragments of daylight. The forest air holds a steady hum, not loud, but persistent. The combined vibrations of insects shifting into their nocturnal rhythms. On these ancient trunks, where sap seeps from hidden wounds and fermenting juices draw nighttime feeders, an arena forms. It is not marked by boundary stones or cleared earth. It is simply wherever two male stag beetles meet. They arrive with a deliberate, weighty gait, their large bodies armored in hardened plates that reflect glints of fading light. But what captures immediate attention is the silhouette of their mandibles, elongated, antler-like structures that spread outward in sharp, branching curves. These mouthparts resemble the horns of a miniature deer, but they are not for cutting or tearing. They are levers, grappling hooks, and precision instruments molded by countless generations of selective pressure. The stag beetle's mandibles are exaggerated structures whose function has transformed from feeding tools into single-purpose weapons used in ritualized combat. The first beetle climbs the bark with careful, methodical steps, drawing power from the 6 stout legs that grip the vertical surface with clawed tarsi. His antennae sweep the air, gathering chemical traces of sap and pheromones. Below him, a second male emerges from the shadows, similarly armed and equally determined. The two converge on the same patch of tree trunk where sticky droplets of sap carry irresistible nutritional value. But sap is not just food. It is the center of a territory that females visit, making it prime real estate for mating opportunities. Only one male can claim it. The tension between them builds long before their bodies touch. Stag beetle battles are not random collisions. They are deliberate contests, shaped by posture and opportunity. The males raise their heads, lifting their mandibles into the air like dueling lances. Muscles at the base of each mandible flex, adjusting the open angle with minute precision. The beetles approach each other slowly, their movements exaggerated, almost ceremonial. These displays act as a silent assessment of strength, size, and confidence. Sometimes one male withdraws at this stage, reading the opponent's dimensions and choosing to conserve energy. But tonight, neither yields. The moment of engagement arrives without fanfare. Their mandibles snap together in a sudden clash, chitin against chitin, the sound crisp and muffled by the night air. The beetles push forward, attempting to slide the tips of their mandibles into advantageous positions beneath the opponent's thorax or around the base of a leg. Although their weapons appear unwieldy, the beetles manipulate them with surprising dexterity. Muscles at the joints control subtle rotational movements, allowing the mandibles to pivot sideways, upward or downward as needed. Grip is everything. Without a stable hold, strength is meaningless. The beetles brace their legs, distributing weight in a tripod-like arrangement that allows them to push, lift, and pivot simultaneously. They test each other's balance, stepping sideways to find angles where bark texture provides greater traction. Each leg placement is strategic, as a single misstep on the grooved surface can cost the beetle its footing. The risk is not injury. Stag beetles rarely inflict wounds on each other, but the possibility of a fall. Gravity is the greatest hazard in this arena. A beetle thrown from the trunk must expend enormous energy climbing back, and by then the victor has already secured the sap or the approaching female. The contest escalates as both males bring their full weight to bear. Their mandibles lock in a distinct sideways clamp, each beetle trying to shift the other's center of gravity. They angle their bodies, pivoting along their joints, seeking leverage. The larger beetle moves into position first, hooking the inner curve of his mandibles beneath the thorax of the rival. The smaller male attempts to counter by twisting his body, but the larger beetle's grip tightens. His mandibles do not pierce, they cradle. The shape is deceptive, blades that do not cut, but instead function as lifting tongs. With a deep heave powered by the thoracic muscles, the larger beetle begins the decisive lift. The motion is slow at first, like the rising of a loaded lever. Then comes a sudden surge of force. Stag beetles possess remarkable strength for their size. Not as dramatic as rhinoceros beetles' lifting feats, but still impressive. Their power comes from reinforced internal attachments where muscle groups anchor to hardened exoskeleton, forming efficient mechanical linkages. As the victor lifts, the rival's legs claw desperately at the bark, seeking purchase. But the angle is wrong. His body tilts upward, and his feet scrape across the textured surface in a shower of loose bark fragments. The larger beetle shakes his head violently side to side, using the full length of his antler-like mandibles to destabilize the opponent. These shakes are not random. They are targeted oscillations intended to unbalance by redirecting weight distribution. A sideways jerk, followed by a quick upward twist, causes the smaller beetle's thorax to cant, and gravity seizes the moment. The rival's hind legs lose contact with the bark entirely, leaving him suspended in the air by the grip of his attacker. With a decisive final motion, the victor throws his opponent off the trunk. The smaller beetle's body flips backward in a surprisingly graceful arc before crashing into the leaf litter below. He lands on his back, legs wriggling as he attempts to right himself. The fall is not fatal. Stag beetles are built to withstand such impacts. But defeat is complete. By the time he rolls upright and begins his slow ascent back up the tree, the battle is already lost. Above, the winning male stands motionless for a moment, antennae raised, mandibles still extended. This pause is not for celebration, but for sensory recalibration. The vibrations from combat linger in the air and wood, and he must ensure no second challenger is approaching. Once satisfied, he lowers his head and returns to the sap, feeding in heavy, deliberate laps. His mandibles, so formidable in combat, fold uselessly aside during feeding. Their transformation through evolution, from simple mouthparts into elaborate weapons, represents a clear case of sexual selection. Larger mandibles correlate with greater success in male-to-male combat, and over time this pressure shaped their current dramatic form. These contests, despite their intensity, are fundamentally restrained. The weaponry is designed to lift and toss, not to injure. Serious harm is rare, as males aim to dislodge one another rather than deliver damaging bites. This ritualized combat allows the strongest males to control resources and gain access to females without decimating the population through lethal fights. It is a system of strength demonstration rather than destruction, promoting survival for both winners and losers. Down below, the defeated beetle begins his slow journey back toward the trunk. His defeat does not mark the end of his reproductive opportunities. It simply excludes him from this particular territory at this particular moment. Stag beetles often attempt multiple contests throughout a mating season, and their persistence is as much a survival trait as their strength. Meanwhile, the victorious male readjusts his stance, settling firmly on the bark. His mandibles remain ready, casting long shadows across the trunk as the moonlight intensifies. In the quiet of the night, with the sap glistening nearby and competitors momentarily dispersed, he stands as the unquestioned ruler of this patch of tree. His victory required no bloodshed, only leverage, a contest resolved by physics, anatomy, and the silent power of evolved precision. In the world of stag beetles, one well-placed clamp followed by a single decisive toss ends the match. The tree becomes calm again, the battle absorbed into the forest's nightly rhythm. And on this ancient trunk, shaped by time and countless generations of fighters, the ritual continues. Strength measured not in violence, but in control, balance, and the ability to unmake an opponent's grip on the world with one calculated movement. Morning rises slowly over the garden, casting a soft wash of diffuse gold through the foliage. Dew clings to the undersides of leaves in trembling droplets, each one magnifying the details of the world below. The veins of a leaf, the delicate fuzz of a stem, and the pale green clusters of aphids arranged like miniature livestock herds. To the casual observer, the scene appears calm. Aphids feed quietly, inserted mouthparts drawing phloem sap in a continuous flow. Their bodies pulse gently with the steady rhythm of nutrient intake. In this tiny oasis of leaf surface life, peace seems possible, even expected. Yet tranquility in nature often exists only in the moments before a predator arrives. A red blur breaks the stillness. A ladybug, freshly warmed by the morning sun, lands near the edge of the colony with a softness that betrays the violence of what comes next. The beetles' dome-shaped elytra gleam with saturated crimson, ornamented by round black spots that signal bright warning to potential predators. The colors advertise toxicity, compounds in its hemolymph that make the beetle foul-tasting and difficult to swallow. But these pigments serve another, subtler purpose. They make the ladybug instantly recognizable, a familiar motif of innocence and luck. It is a cultural illusion humans have woven around an animal that is anything but gentle. The ladybug moves deliberately, her 6 legs navigating the leaf with surprising speed. As she approaches the aphids, they remain oblivious. Aphids lack defensive behaviors beyond clustering and producing more offspring at astonishing rates. Their survival strategy is reproduction, not resistance. They rely on the hope that predators cannot consume them as fast as they appear. But this visitor is not a casual predator. She is a specialist. The moment she reaches the first aphid, the transformation is instant. The ladybug's head dips downward, mandibles opening in a smooth mechanical arc. These mandibles, curved, hardened tools hidden beneath a charming visage, clamp onto the soft-bodied prey with crushing force. The aphid pops with a sound too small for human ears, its internal fluids drawn immediately into the ladybug's mouth. One bite. That is all it takes. The aphid does not struggle, does not attempt escape. Its body collapses in on itself, dissolved almost entirely by the force of the ladybug's jaws. She moves to the next aphid without hesitation. Again the mandibles open, again they close, and another tiny body folds into pulp. The ladybug's feeding apparatus is built for this efficiency. While many beetles rely on chewing mouthparts to break down tough tissues, the ladybug devours prey whose bodies are so soft that the jaws act more like crushing plates. This adaptation allows rapid consumption, each bite requiring little muscular effort. Within seconds, the ladybug has consumed several aphids, leaving only faint residues of their existence behind. Aphids attempt to reposition, their little legs scrambling in chaotic directions. Some shift to the underside of the leaf, others cluster more tightly, but none of these actions are true evasive maneuvers. Aphids evolved alongside predators that select prey through chemical cues, vibration signatures, or movement. The ladybug, however, hunts visually, using a combination of shape recognition and movement detection to identify suitable targets. Her compound eyes process visual information rapidly, enabling her to scan the colony and move toward the densest clusters. She enters the heart of the aphid mass, her body surrounded on all sides by potential prey. Here her efficiency becomes astonishing. She bites one aphid after another, each action a near-perfect repetition of the previous. The mandibles close, the fluids spill, and the body is taken in. Unlike predators that require complex handling techniques or venom to subdue prey, the ladybug needs none. The aphid's soft exoskeletons offer no resistance, and their internal tissues provide immediate nourishment. The ladybug's digestive system begins breaking down these nutrients almost as soon as they enter her mouth, using enzymes tailored for rapid liquefaction. This internal machinery allows her to eat quickly, store nutrition efficiently, and continue feeding long after other predators would be full or exhausted. Across the leaf, the aphids that sense abnormal vibrations begin secreting alarm pheromones. These chemical signals disperse through the air in faint waves, warning nearby members of the colony. Some aphids retract their mouthparts in mild panic. Others begin to give birth at accelerated rates, producing live young in their characteristic parthenogenetic manner. Yet these responses are insufficient. The ladybug's attack is too fast, too relentless, and too directed. The alarm pheromones only highlight the most active areas of the colony, drawing her toward them. She moves directly into the densest regions, where the highest reward awaits. Her methodical assault reveals deeper truths about predator-prey dynamics. Ladybugs are often celebrated as beneficial insects in agriculture, serving as natural pest control agents. But the mechanics of this role are far more dramatic than a name like garden helper suggests. A single adult ladybug can consume dozens of aphids in a single hour, and over the course of a full day, she can reduce an entire colony to near nothingness. She does not pick and choose. She eats continuously until full, then resumes after digestion. Aphids breed rapidly, but even their remarkable reproductive speed rarely matches the ferocity of a dedicated predator. As the ladybug feeds, her body temperature rises. Being a small ectothermic animal, she relies on ambient warmth to maintain the energy levels required for this intense predatory behavior. The sun now shines directly on the leaf, warming the beetle's exoskeleton and increasing her metabolism. Higher temperatures allow muscle fibers in her mandibles to contract more efficiently, fueling faster bites and shorter rest intervals between kills. Her growing speed turns the hunting sequence into a blur of crimson and black. Within minutes, the once thriving aphid colony lies in disarray. Empty husks cling to the leaf surface. Translucent skins collapsed like deflated balloons. The survivors wander aimlessly, disoriented by the interruption of feeding and the disappearance of their neighbors. Some release defensive droplets of sugary honeydew, but this secretion does nothing more than lubricate the ladybug's path as she continues her advance. The colony, now fractured and weakened, falls rapidly toward collapse. The ladybug pauses only to clean her mandibles, sweeping them with her forelegs in rhythmic strokes that remove debris. This grooming behavior keeps her mouthparts sharp, functional, and free of sticky residue that could reduce efficiency in future hunts. Once clean, she resumes feeding, selecting prey with the same mechanical precision as before. Her body works with the rhythm of a well-tuned engine. Take, crush, swallow, move. In nature, predation is often portrayed as a dramatic chase or a violent struggle, but here the violence is quiet. It is almost surgical. The ladybug's dominance over the aphids is not contested through strength, venom, or subtle manipulation. It is achieved through structural advantage, hardened mandibles designed to pulp soft-bodied prey before the victims have time to react. A digestive system that extracts nutrients quickly and discards waste efficiently, and sensory adaptations that allow her to locate clusters with near-perfect accuracy. Eventually, as the aphid population dwindles, the ladybug retreats to the edge of the leaf. She pauses beneath the shade of a midrib, letting the sun warm her wings. Her abdomen swells slightly, evidence of a meal that will sustain her for many hours. Yet even now she remains alert. If another colony lies nearby, and in a garden rich with vegetation, that possibility is almost certain, she will take flight and repeat the process. In the span of a single morning, one ladybug has dismantled what dozens of aphids spent days building. Their strategy of rapid reproduction falters when confronted with a predator evolved to exploit their every weakness. One bite ends the life of each aphid. Multiplied again and again, it becomes a quiet storm that wipes entire colonies off the leaves they depend on. In this world of miniature dramas, the ladybug stands not as a gentle emblem of good fortune, but as a relentless hunter whose efficiency rivals that of any larger predator. Her charm is only surface deep. Beneath the colorful shell lies an engine of consumption so finely honed that entire ecosystems rely on it to keep balance. The aphids never stood a chance. The morning sun rises over the meadow with a gentleness that belies the stakes of survival playing out beneath its glow. Light pours across stands of milkweed, their broad leaves glistening from the night's moisture. Within these leaves lies a chemical weapon that shapes entire food webs, a bitter toxin produced not for war, but for self-defense. Yet evolution has found ways to borrow even the harshest traits. And somewhere near the top of a milkweed stem, a monarch caterpillar feeds with slow, deliberate movements, its soft body banded in yellow, white, and black. It is not merely eating, it is arming itself. Milkweed contains cardiac glycosides, compounds capable of disrupting the ion balance in animal cells, particularly in cardiac tissues. These chemicals are potent, capable of inducing nausea, paralysis, or even fatal arrhythmias in would-be predators. Most herbivores avoid them instinctively. Monarch caterpillars, however, have evolved not only to tolerate these toxins, but to sequester them within their own tissues. Through specialized physiological pathways, they store glycosides in their fat bodies, hemolymph, and integument without harm. In effect, they harvest the plant's defense and incorporate it into their own biology. This is chemical defense through assimilation, a rarity among insects and a brilliant adaptation from the perspective of survival. Day by day, the caterpillar grows heavier, each mouthful of milkweed delivering both nutrients and toxins. The caterpillar's digestive tissues filter, isolate, and retain the glycosides, converting its soft larval body into a repository of bitterness. Eventually, after completing several molts, the caterpillar suspends itself beneath a leaf and forms a chrysalis. Inside the jade-green casing, its body dissolves into a cellular soup that reforms through metamorphosis. Remarkably, the toxins survive this restructuring. When the adult butterfly emerges, drying its wings in the sun as orange and black patterns inflate to full span, the glycosides are still present, woven through the tissues that predators most often target. The monarch butterfly's coloration is not an artistic flourish, it is a declaration. The bold contrast of orange, black and white is an aposematic signal, evolved to warn predators of the chemical danger within. The pattern is unmistakable, a visual banner that communicates one message: do not eat me. But warnings only work if someone listens. And in nature, many lessons require a terrible first experience. High in the low branches of a nearby tree, a young bird, perhaps a fledgling robin or a warbler, scans the meadow. For birds learning to forage, the world is full of experiments. Some insects are tasty, some difficult to catch, some simply unpleasant but harmless. A monarch butterfly fluttering with slow, deliberate wing beats over a patch of thistle blooms seems like easy prey. Its flight is not erratic. It does not dodge or veer sharply. It drifts, gliding with a softness that makes the bird's instincts flare. This is something it could catch. And so, in a single dive, the bird launches. Down through the air it descends, wings tucked tightly to streamline its shape. The butterfly senses the rush of wind a moment too late and attempts a shallow, evasive turn. But butterflies are not built for rapid escape. The bird's beak closes around one of the wings, and the monarch is pulled from the sky in a snap of feathers. The bird lands on a branch with the bright insect still flapping weakly between its mandibles. This is the predator's moment of victory, or so it seems. The bird delivers the customary exploratory bite, puncturing the butterfly's abdomen. A tiny burst of orange fluid touches its tongue. Instantly, the bird reacts. The taste is overwhelming, bitter, metallic, nauseating in a way that triggers deep, instinctive rejection. Cardiac glycosides interfere with sodium-potassium pumps in cells, triggering physiological alarm bells even in small quantities. Birds do not need conscious reasoning to know something is wrong. Their nervous systems respond first, a wave of discomfort surging from tongue to gut. The bird jerks its head back, shakes violently, and spits the monarch onto the ground. The butterfly falls, wings crumpled, its body punctured. It will not recover. The cost of this lesson is its life. But the effect is profound. The bird wipes its beak against the bark in frantic movements, attempting to remove every trace of the foul taste. Its stomach contracts in a wave of queasiness. This moment, imprinted in vivid sensory memory, becomes a permanent deterrent. Color, taste, and discomfort link themselves together in the bird's cognition. The bright orange and black pattern becomes synonymous with sickness. And because birds possess strong visual learning circuits, capable of remembering harmful prey for years, the association will shape every future hunting decision. The next time this bird sees a monarch, or even an insect that vaguely resembles the monarch's warning pattern, it will veer away. This single interaction ripples outward in ecological impact. Predator avoidance increases monarch survival, which in turn influences milkweed populations and migratory cycles. Young monarchs, descended from those fortunate enough to avoid predation in their early days, will continue their migration paths across hundreds or even thousands of kilometers. Every butterfly that reaches adulthood carries the chemical legacy of milkweed and the memory it impresses onto predators. Yet the monarch's protection extends beyond itself. Other species have learned to mimic its pattern, evolving near-identical coloration without necessarily carrying the same toxins. This phenomenon, known as Batesian mimicry, allows non-toxic butterflies to borrow the monarch's warning signal. Viceroy butterflies, for example, resemble monarchs so closely that birds avoid them as well, a survival strategy built entirely on the monarch's chemical message. Even more fascinating, some species exhibit Mullerian mimicry, in which multiple toxic species converge on similar warning patterns. In these systems, all participants contribute to predator education. While adult monarchs benefit from the toxins ingested during the larval stage, their reliance on these chemicals creates dependencies. Monarch populations are tied intimately to milkweed availability. In areas where milkweed declines due to habitat loss or pesticide use, monarchs struggle to accumulate sufficient toxins, leaving them more vulnerable. Predators, too, shape their behavior based on these environmental shifts. A butterfly with insufficient glycoside stores may not trigger the same powerful nausea, reducing the predator's avoidance response. The delicate interplay between plant chemistry, insect physiology, and predator learning forms a finely tuned ecological network that can unravel if any component falters. Back in the meadow, the monarch's fallen body rests among the grasses. Its sacrifice has taught a predator an unforgettable lesson. Near the milkweed stand, another monarch takes flight, perhaps a sibling from the same brood, drifting upward in a slow, purposeful glide. Far above, the bird that experienced the bitter taste scans for its next meal. Its gaze passes over the bright flutter of orange wings without a moment's hesitation. It will never repeat that mistake. This is the monarch's defensive finisher, the attack that ends not in a kill, but in a memory. A single bite delivers such overwhelming toxicity that the predator avoids the species for the rest of its life. Through one interaction, the butterfly achieves a kind of victory that extends far beyond the individual. It protects the lineage, reinforces an evolutionary agreement between predator and prey, and preserves a warning pattern recognized across landscapes and generations. In the intricate web of life, some creatures survive through speed, some through strength, others through stealth. The monarch survives through education, delivered in one terrible taste. And in the quiet meadow lit by the rising sun, the cycle continues. Predators learn, butterflies endure, and a color pattern becomes a universal symbol of danger, respected across the wingspan of the world. The rainforest understory holds a kind of darkness that never fully lifts, even at midday. Sunbeams descend through gaps in the canopy as thin, wandering columns, striking the forest floor in isolated patches that glow like small, temporary clearings. In this dim half-light, shapes take on deceptive forms. A curled brown leaf may be a moth. A broken twig may be a resting grasshopper. And on the trunk of an old fig tree, a broad, mottled object clings motionless, so still, so unremarkable, that even experienced predators overlook it. A closer look reveals the faint outline of veins, the jagged imitation of decay, and the perfectly convincing texture of dead plant matter. It is an owl butterfly, with its wings closed. With wings folded tight, the butterfly disappears into the visual noise of the forest. The underside of its wings resembles a leaf that has fallen victim to time. Brown, brittle-looking, asymmetrical. There is no hint of softness or life in the patterning. Every line is a simulation of damage. Dark lines where fungal rot might spread. Lighter patches where the leaf tissue may have thinned. Even the tiny irregularities that mimic insect chew marks appear with uncanny precision. This level of crypsis does not arise from chance. It is the result of evolutionary pressures, sculpting more convincing illusions with every generation. The butterfly remains still, perched side-on to the bark, its body temperature regulated by the shade. Owl butterflies, unlike many relatives in the Lepidoptera order, are large and heavy-bodied. Their broad wings demand considerable energy for flight, and in the humid, predator-rich environments of tropical forests, wasting energy is dangerous. Movement attracts attention. Stillness survives. A rustle breaks the quiet, a soft ripple through a tangle of vines. A small lizard, perhaps a whiptail or a knoll species, creeps along the trunk. Its tongue flicks out repeatedly, tasting the air for scent molecules. Its vision is sharp, capable of detecting subtle motion even in low light, and its instincts drive it to investigate any possible food source. Insects on bark are common meals, and the motionless leaf clinging to the tree fits the profile of vulnerable prey. The lizard advances cautiously. Tiny claws grip the bark with ease as it scales the trunk, pausing occasionally to tilt its head and analyze the stationary form before it. From the lizard's perspective, the object seems harmless. Perhaps a dead leaf caught on a rough patch of bark. It moves closer, closing the final inches with careful, confident steps. Then, the butterfly moves. Not with a flutter or a gentle opening, but with a sudden, explosive spread of its wings. The transformation is instantaneous and dramatic. What had been a bland brown silhouette bursts into a vivid circular gaze. Two enormous eye spots dominate the revealed wing surfaces, each one ringed in contrasting shades of gold, black, and deep blue. These false eyes are not random shapes. They are engineered illusions designed to hijack the predator's brain. To many animals in the rainforest, large, staring eyes signal one thing: danger. Specifically, the eyes of a much larger predator. In the dim light, shapes distort easily. Creatures evolve fast reflexes to avoid ambush. The owl butterfly's strategy exploits these instincts with remarkable precision. The reaction is immediate. The lizard recoils backward, its body arching in a spasm of fear. It scrambles several steps before freezing, then darts even farther back in a rapid retreat. The bird that might have been hunting from a nearby branch also reacts, pivoting away in a flash of wings. To these predators, the sudden appearance of enormous eyes feels like a silent alarm, the moment between life and death compressed into a reflexive decision. Instinct demands retreat. No calculation. No second glance. This psychological knockout is the owl butterfly's finisher. It does not bite, sting, or poison. It simply shows what looks like a pair of gigantic eyes in the darkness. One motion, one moment. And the predator's attack dissolves. Once the threat passes, the butterfly closes its wings again, reverting instantly to a leaf-like form. The eyes disappear. The camouflaged underside returns, and all evidence of the spectacle vanishes. The butterfly resumes its stillness, letting the forest sounds wash over it. This duality, invisibility followed by sudden intimidation, is one of nature's most elegant defenses. But the effectiveness of the eye spots goes deeper than mere fear. Visual systems in many vertebrates evolve to interpret face-like patterns quickly. Even without conscious thought, animals perceive symmetry, dark pupils, and the ringed geometry, typical of predatory eyes. The butterfly's wing patterns mimic these cues with astonishing efficiency. The dark, circular centers resemble pupils, while the surrounding concentric rings give the impression of eyelids and depth. From a distance, or during a moment of surprise, the illusion becomes convincing enough to trigger avoidance. The contrast between the butterfly's behaviors reveals an important evolutionary principle. Defensive adaptations thrive when they take advantage of predator psychology, not just physical constraints. Many insects use camouflage, while others display bright colors to signal toxicity. The owl butterfly combines both methods into a multi-layered defense system, an escalation sequence that neutralizes threats before physical contact occurs. The eye blast move itself depends on timing. The butterfly must remain motionless long enough for predators to approach closely, ensuring maximum effect when the wings open. If the display occurs too early, the predator may simply shift position for a better attack angle. Too late, and physical contact becomes inevitable. Thus, owl butterflies have evolved keen sensitivity to subtle vibrations and air currents. Tiny mechanoreceptors distributed along their wings and body allow them to detect approaching animals with accuracy, triggering the muscular reflex that spreads the wings at exactly the right moment. Even the structure of the wings contributes to the illusion. Owl butterflies possess large wings with strong, flexible veins that allow rapid unfolding without tearing. The wing scales that compose the eye spots reflect light in gradients, providing depth and realism to the optical effect. The way light catches these scales in low visibility enhances the startling appearance, making the eye spots seem even larger than they are. While the butterfly's defense is effective, it is not without cost. The eye spots attract unwanted attention when displayed, so the butterfly relies heavily on camouflage during daylight hours. Owl butterflies are most active at dusk and night, feeding on fermenting fruit and occasionally tree sap. Their crepuscular habits reduce encounters with birds, but diurnal predators like lizards still pose a significant threat. Hence the need for a defense that can operate instantly and decisively. The power of the eye blast extends far beyond the moment of surprise. Predators that experience this sudden visual shock often develop avoidance behaviors that last for months, if not longer. The pattern becomes etched into memory. A young bird that attempts to seize an owl butterfly and receives a jump scare may hesitate the next time it sees even a faint resemblance of the eye pattern in the environment. This learning shapes predator behavior in ways that benefit not only owl butterflies, but other species with similar markings. Evolution creates ripple effects. One butterfly's successful deception becomes a template adopted across unrelated insect groups through convergent evolution. On the forest floor, the lizard that fled earlier now watches from a safe distance, body still tense, heart rate elevated. It does not return to the tree trunk. The association between the harmless-looking leaf and the sudden threat is now locked into its behavior. The butterfly, unaware of the lasting mark it has imprinted on the predator's mind, remains motionless once more. Its wings are closed, its presence erased. The forest's rhythm resumes, cicadas rising in their chorus. In a world where speed often defines survival, the owl butterfly chooses a different strategy: shock and withdraw. No chase, no force. Just a perfectly timed reveal. One moment of terror. One memory that lasts. For predators, a single encounter is enough to reshape a lifetime of hunting decisions. For the butterfly, that single moment means another day of survival. And in the vast, intricate tapestry of the rainforest, where every movement might be misinterpreted as threat or opportunity, one simple flick of wings is all it takes to turn an attack into a retreat, a jump scare powerful enough to alter instinct. The pond at dawn is a place suspended between stillness and quiet motion. A thin mist slides across the surface, softening the edges of reeds and stones until the world feels blurred, unfinished. The water's skin, because it behaves like a skin, stretched tight by invisible molecular forces, holds a mirror of the sky in place. This fragile surface is a boundary few creatures can cross without breaking. To most insects, the pond is a trap. A slip, a misstep, and the water seizes them, binding wings and legs with adhesive tension. But for the water strider, this same boundary becomes a foundation. It is not a barrier, but a floor. A single water strider glides over the pond with the calm precision of a trained skater. Its long, slender legs splay outward, each tipped with microscopic hairs coated in a waxy substance that repels water. These hairs form a dense mat, trapping air and preventing liquid from ever touching the leg surface. The result is an extraordinary adaptation where the insect's body weight is distributed across broad contact points. This distribution prevents the legs from breaking the water's surface tension. To the strider, the pond is as solid as glass. To everything else, it is a suffocating trap. In the still air, the strider pauses. It waits, not for sight or scent, but for vibrations. The pond is a canvas of information. Any insect that touches the water sends tremors outward in concentric ripples. The water strider's legs are tuned to detect these vibrations with exquisite sensitivity. Mechanoreceptors along the limbs register the amplitude, frequency, and direction of the disturbances, translating them into a mental map of the world below and above the waterline. This ability is so refined that a strider can distinguish between the ripple of a falling leaf, the flutter of a drowning mosquito, and the stealthy approach of another strider. A small splash interrupts the morning stillness. A fly, clumsy from the night's chill, has crashed into the pond. It fights to stay afloat, wings plastered to its sides, legs flailing in desperate arcs. The water clings to its body, drawing it downward with each struggle. Surface tension acts as an invisible net, holding it captive. The fly's wing beats send out sharp, erratic ripples that travel across the pond like alarms. The water strider senses them instantly. The predator lowers its body slightly, adjusting its center of gravity. Then it moves. The glide begins with gentle strokes. The middle legs push against the surface, and the strider accelerates smoothly without breaking a single droplet. Each movement creates barely perceptible dimples in the water, tiny depressions that vanish the moment the legs lift. This near-frictionless locomotion makes the strider appear weightless, an illusion supported entirely by physics and evolutionary refinement. As it approaches the struggling fly, the strider's posture shifts subtly. Its front legs rise slightly, poised like grappling hooks. The mouthparts, long, needle-like structures called stylets, remain tucked beneath the head for now. These are the tools of the finisher, designed to pierce exoskeletons and siphon the nutrient-rich fluids inside. The fly continues to flounder, each motion weakening as the water drags it deeper into exhaustion. Surface tension, once a passive force, becomes a constricting hold. The more the fly struggles, the more the water's grip tightens. This moment, prey immobilized by the physics of its environment, is precisely what the water strider exists to exploit. With a final burst of speed, the strider closes the distance. It plants its front legs on the water beside the fly, anchoring itself without sinking. Then, in one swift motion, it strikes. The stylet extends, probing the fly's thorax. The mouthparts operate like a multi-part syringe. Outer components hold the tissue in place, while the inner needle penetrates, delivering digestive enzymes that break down internal fluids. The process is methodical, efficient, and utterly silent. The fly's final attempts at escape falter as its body loses structural integrity from within. It is not poisoned outright, nor does it succumb to external force. Instead, it suffers a collapse of its internal systems, a quiet unraveling that begins the moment the strider breaches its exoskeleton. The water strider's saliva liquefies the fly's tissues, converting them into a soup it can drink. Through capillary action and muscular suction, the predator draws these fluids into its body. It feeds without haste. The fly, pinned by the constant pressure of the water's tension and the strider's steady grip, cannot break free. Even if it had the strength to push upward, the surface behaves like elastic film, resisting the upward force and keeping the insect immobilized. This feeding behavior reveals one of the most elegant relationships between predator and environment. The strider does not subdue prey through brute force, venom, or speed alone. It works in concert with the water. The pond itself becomes an accomplice, weakening victims and holding them in place. The strider merely delivers the finishing blow, a single puncture that initiates the slow collapse. As the meal progresses, the pond's surface ripples lightly, disturbed by the predator's movements and the fading struggles of the prey. The water strider maintains its balance effortlessly, adjusting its leg positions with minute corrections. Even as it feeds, it remains attuned to the environment. Vibrations caused by other striders, predators, or falling debris feed into its sensory network. This constant monitoring is essential in a world where danger approaches from above, birds, frogs, or diving insects, and from below, where fish lurk in ambush. The strider's ability to remain afloat is not simply a matter of water-repellent hairs. Beneath the exoskeleton, its body mass is distributed to minimize downward pressure. The insect's legs are arranged to maximize surface area contact while minimizing immersion. In effect, the insect manipulates the delicate balance between gravitational force and the cohesive strength of water molecules. Any disturbance to this balance, a sudden jump, too much weight, or an uneven shift, could send it plunging through the surface. But evolution has engineered the strider with precision. Its movements are fluid, its center of mass stable, its weight light enough to remain supported by forces invisible to the naked eye. Eventually, the fly's body collapses inward as its internal fluids empty. The strider releases it, letting the lightweight husk drift downward. Without the buoyant resistance of its internal tissues, the fly's shell breaks the surface tension and sinks. In the calm that follows, the strider cleans its mouthparts, using its forelegs to wipe away residue, ensuring the stylet remains sharp and functional. With the meal complete, the predator resumes its patrol. The pond regains its quiet composure, disturbed only by the faint ripples trailing behind the strider. Yet the tranquility is deceptive. At any moment, another insect may crash land. Another ripple may spread across the surface like a distress call. The water strider listens for these vibrations with an attentiveness bordering on perfection. It is a hunter whose arena spans the entire reflective world beneath its feet. In evolutionary terms, the water strider's dominance comes from specialization. Many predators rely on strength, venom, or speed. The strider relies on physics, on harnessing the surface tension others cannot conquer, on interpreting vibrations like a language, on using a puncture rather than a chase. Its lethal precision lies not in overwhelming force, but in exploiting the vulnerabilities of any creature unfortunate enough to touch the water. One puncture. That is all it takes. The prey, trapped by the surface and drained from within, collapses slowly into the pond. The strider skates away, leaving only ripples as evidence of the hunt. And in the stillness of the dawn-lit water, the surface becomes calm again, waiting for the next tremor, the next mistake, the next victim to break the peace. The tropics begin their day with humidity already clinging to every surface, wrapping stems, leaves, and bark in a warm sheen that magnifies even the smallest details. Along a sunlit hedge at the edge of a forest clearing, the first rays of morning slide over vines and shrubs, revealing a bustling, microscopic world. Sap flows through stems like liquid sugar. Scale insects gather along the undersides of leaves, clustered in pale, wax-coated groups, and young caterpillars nibble slowly at greenery softened by the night's moisture. Everything seems peaceful, following the slow rhythms of herbivory that shape so much of the plant community. Yet hidden among these leaves is a creature that disrupts that calm with startling efficiency. It is not the adult leopard lacewing, whose vivid orange and black patterns glide harmlessly through the canopy above. It is the larva, a creature whose appearance alone warns of its brutality. Clinging to a stem is a lacewing larva bristling with spines. Its elongated body is dark, punctuated by streaks of white and orange that break up its silhouette. Spiked tubercles protrude along its sides, giving it the appearance of a living fragment of thorns. This camouflage works beautifully in a tangle of vegetation, where young shoots and rough bark create a jagged landscape. A predator might overlook it entirely. Prey do not even notice it until contact is made, and by then, their fate is sealed. The larva moves with a slow, creeping motion, its segmented body contracting and extending like a soft-bodied predator, navigating terrain with purpose. Its head, shaped like a pointed wedge, carries mandibles that curve inward like miniature sickles. But these mandibles are not designed for chewing. They are hollow channels, functioning as injectors and siphons, turning the larva into a mobile feeding syringe. For now, the lacewing larva waits, anchored to the stem by tiny hooked legs that grip tightly to the plant's surface. A few centimeters away, a scale insect sits motionless, as scale insects do. It feeds by inserting delicate mouthparts into the plant, drawing sap in an unbroken flow. Its world contains no motion except the creeping expansion of its waxy covering as it grows. To the lacewing larva, the scale insect presents the perfect feeding target, soft-bodied, slow, and packed with nutrient-rich fluids. But caterpillars, too, make ideal prey. On an adjacent leaf, a small caterpillar inches forward, scraping away plant tissue in rhythmic arcs. Each bite produces faint vibrations through the leaf, vibrations that lacewing larvae can detect through substrate-borne cues. The larva's sensory adaptations allow it to interpret these tremors with accuracy, detecting the position, size, and even the movement rhythm of the potential prey. While the predator's eyes can perceive only simple shapes and light contrasts, its ability to sense vibration compensates beautifully, guiding it like a living seismic receiver. The lacewing larva begins its advance. Its legs grip and release in slow succession, creating almost no disturbance on the leaf. Soft-bodied predators rarely rely on speed. Instead, they use stealth and certainty, striking only when escape becomes impossible. As the larva approaches the scale insect first, its mandibles swing open slightly, testing the air for chemical cues. It senses no defensive compounds, no sudden movement. The scale insect remains absorbed in its feeding, unaware of the danger descending upon it. The strike happens in a blur of motion. The larva lunges forward, anchoring its front legs on either side of the prey. Its mandibles clamp onto the soft tissue between the scale's protective wax plates. This initial grip is not the kill itself. It is simply the latch. The true finisher begins the moment the hollow mandibles penetrate deeper. Through these mandibles, the larva injects digestive enzymes that immediately begin to break down internal tissues. These enzymes are complex biochemical mixtures that dissolve cell membranes, liquefy organs, and reduce the prey's insides to a nutrient-dense slurry. It is external digestion conducted inside the victim's body, a strategy that eliminates the need for the larva to chew through resistant tissues. The process is grotesquely efficient. Cells rupture, fluids mix, and structural integrity fails from within. The prey does not scream, thrash, or attempt escape. It is immobilized by the shock of the puncture and the rapid destruction of its internal pressure systems. The lacewing larva now switches from injection to extraction. Using muscular contractions of its head and gut, it begins to siphon the liquefied contents back through the same mandibles that delivered the enzymes. The prey deflates slowly, its body collapsing like a leaking container. To an observer, it appears as though the scale insect is melting, losing shape as its internal volume drains away. The larva pauses only to adjust its grip or reposition its body for better leverage. Nearby, the caterpillar senses the disturbance, but remains unprepared. It lifts its head slightly, rotating in the larva's direction, but the motion is too late. Caterpillars are notoriously defenseless at this stage. Their primary survival strategy is rapid growth and camouflage, not combat. The lacewing larva, having emptied the scale insect nearly to transparency, shifts its attention and glides across the stem with renewed hunger. The caterpillar's fate follows the same sequence. The lacewing larva clamps its mandibles onto the caterpillar's side, piercing the thin cuticle. Enzymes flow in, dissolving internal tissues. Fluid pressure drops. Muscular control fades. The caterpillar's body slackens, its segments collapsing inward as though the structure beneath them has been removed. Its skin wrinkles, darkens and folds, becoming nothing more than an empty husk. One long feeding event, a single successful latch, determines its future long before digestion completes. The lacewing larva is relentless. As it feeds, its abdomen expands slightly, storing the extracted nutrients. These nutrients will fuel its rapid development, pushing it toward pupation. Leopard lacewing larvae grow in fierce stages, each one demanding large quantities of protein. Their predatory nature is not optional. It is essential. Without the fluids of soft-bodied insects, the larvae would fail to accumulate the energy needed to form a chrysalis. Despite their brutality, lacewing larvae play an important ecological role. They regulate populations of scale insects, aphids and caterpillars, preventing outbreaks that could damage plant communities. Their killing efficiency is nature's means of balancing the overwhelming reproductive power of herbivorous insects. The larva's enzymes are specialized tools that bypass the slow mechanics of chewing, giving them the ability to dispatch prey much larger than themselves. As midday approaches, the larva finishes draining its second victim and lifts its head, mandibles still glistening with remnants of liquefied tissue. It moves with a sense of purpose, driven by an instinctive hunger cycle that repeats until enough energy is stored for metamorphosis. Around it, the stem is littered with the collapsed shells of its prey, silent witnesses to a hunting method that leaves little behind. When the time comes, the larva will anchor itself to a leaf and weave a protective chrysalis. The transformation inside will be dramatic, reshaping its soft predatory body into the brilliant adult leopard lacewing, a butterfly that bears no visual trace of the killer it once was. The adult feeds on nectar rather than flesh, drifting gently through the canopy, like any other tropical butterfly. Only its earliest life stage carries the memory of brutality. Yet deep in the ecosystem, that memory matters. Prey populations shaped by the presence of such efficient predators develop behaviors, distributions, and reproductive timings that influence plant health and biodiversity across the habitat. A single larva, through dozens of kills, becomes part of a larger stabilizing mechanism, an unseen but powerful regulator of the green world. For the prey, everything ends the moment those hooked mandibles latch into place. One puncture, one injection, one long, relentless siphon. What remains afterward is nothing more than a collapsed shell, barely recognizable as the organism it once was. The lacewing larva does not roar, chase, or wrestle. Its finisher is more clinical, more precise, and far more devastating. A single successful bite that turns the victim into liquid. And for the creatures of the stem and leaf, that single bite is all it takes to end the fight.